Now we're in the end game now, just a few more weeks until NHL 26 drops, and I'm going to be completely honest, I am running out of ideas for NHL 25. I don't know what else to do at this point, because there's a lot of videos I want to record, but it doesn't make sense for me to do them for NHL 25. We're holding off until NHL 26. So until that time, I'm stuck with another team full of 0 overall players. We got ourselves a new franchise, the Houston Desert Dogs, and we're going to win this team right here, a Stanley Cup, through spinning the wheel of NHL 15 teams. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about. Right now, NHL 15 is 10 years old and it's about to turn 11 years old, meaning NHL 16 is about to be a 10-year-old game. Time's just flying by here, but we're going to be landing on the Montreal Canadiens, so that means I have to go find one active player from the NHL 15 Montreal Canadiens and bring him to my NHL 25 team. So here we are back on NHL 15. Max Pacioretty is the highest overall in the Montreal Canadiens at an 88 overall. Unfortunately, he's not an 88 overall in NHL 25. Then we have Brendan Gallagher, an 84 overall. I don't believe he's an 84 overall in NHL 25. We also have Lars Eller here, but those are going to be our only 3 options that we can select from. We have Max Pacioretty, Lars Eller, and Brendan Gallagher. When it comes to the defense, we don't have a single active player left from this defense. Then when it comes to goaltending, Carey Price isn't an active goaltender anymore, so unfortunately, we're not going to be bringing him to the team. So we're selecting from Max Pacioretty, Lars Eller, and Brendan Gallagher. I actually don't know who the highest overall player between these 3 guys are. I think it might be Brendan Gallagher at an 83 overall. Lars Eller, I believe you're only like an 81, 82 overall. Max Pacioretty, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same with you. So the first player we're going to bring to the team, Brendan Gallagher. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Brendan Gallagher is going to be the first player brought to the team. We're going to be looking at an 83 overall with him. Not the best player in the world, but you know what? He's still a decent start. So we brought our first player to the team being Brendan Gallagher, starting off as an 83 overall. He's going to have to play some center minutes for us, considering he's the only player on this team. So with you being the only player, I have very low expectations for this team. Also, while we go ahead and lose every game this season, because we all know that's going to happen, if you haven't already, of course, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 86k by the end of the month, and if you don't subscribe, we won't be able to do so. So make sure you hit the button down below right now, and you might as well drop a like while you're down there. Now, it's no surprise with just Brendan Gallagher, we're not going to be winning any games this season, but I'm actually surprised that we got through the entire season here. Normally it freezes in year number 1 because we allow too many goals, but that's not going to happen here. Brendan Gallagher, you didn't record any points, you didn't take a single shot, you were minus 526. That basically sums up this entire season. The goaltending was terrible here, but did we really expect it to be good? The Edmonton Oilers are Stanley Cup champions. They're taking down the Montreal Canadiens, which is very ironic since we just took a player from the 2015 Montreal Canadiens, but that's neither here nor there. It's time for us to go add another player, and there's one team I clearly want, and that is the Pittsburgh Penguins, because I want Sidney Crosby. He was an amazing player back in NHL 15, but he's still an amazing player in NHL 25. The longevity of Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin is actually something that doesn't get talked about enough. I know it gets talked about a lot, but I feel like it should be talked about even more. When a player is this dominant for such a long period of time, it's historic. We're going to be landing on the 2015 Toronto Maple Leafs. I couldn't tell you who we're bringing to the team here. I don't think we're going to have Morgan Rielly. I think this was a little bit before his time. Another player that's coming to mind is JVR, but I can't think of anyone else. Like, Phil the Thrill Kessel isn't in the league. Are we bringing Joffrey Lupul to the team? That could be the move. Now, originally when I was thinking back to the 2015 Toronto Maple Leafs, I was thinking of Phil the Thrill Kessel, Tyler Bozak, JVR, Joffrey Lupul, but I completely forgot about Nazem Kadri. He was a young player at this time, 85 overall Kadri. You're going to be the guy we're bringing to the team. But I shouldn't say we're bringing Nazem Kadri to the team, because Morgan Rielly is available, and he's like an 88, 89 overall in NHL 25, and getting a high 80 overall defenseman would definitely be a nice upgrade for us. When it comes to goaltending, we have Jonathan Bernier and James Reimer here. We're not going with either of these guys, but I actually think we're going to be passing up on Nazem Kadri to go with the defenseman. Morgan Rielly, you're going to be our next selection. I will say one thing that's going to take this video really long is I have to keep closing NHL 25, loading up NHL 15, closing NHL 15, loading up NHL 25. I'm going to spend more than half my time just closing and reloading games. Now, although Nazem Kadri would have been a great addition to the team, like he's an 86 overall, that would be amazing for the forward core. He would be the best player here. We're going to pass up on him so we can bring an 88 overall Morgan Rielly to the team. He's going to be a great addition. He's likely going to be one of our top defensemen, or he's going to be a top defenseman until we land on the Nashville Predators and I can bring Roman Josi to the team. Now, since we only have 2 players on the team, Morgan Rielly, instead of playing defensive minutes for us, I'm going to have you play center minutes for us, because I feel like it makes more sense for you to play alongside Brendan Gallagher than have him on the forward core with 2 0 overalls, and then you play defensive minutes with another 0 overall. We might as well just try to load up our top line here. Now, it looks like Morgan Rielly is going to be sparking the offense. We might not have won a game this season, but we scored 5 goals. We allowed over 1,000, but we scored scored 5 goals this season. Morgan Rielly's picking up 4 goals and 1 assist for 5 points. Brendan Gallagher 1 goal and 4 assists for 5 points. And then Tom Majors and Kaz Kalinkas, they're going to be picking up 2 points each. These guys were showing up for us big time. But you know who didn't show up? Erik Kartman and Ricky Lafleur. What are these numbers right here? Like, y'all almost had goals against of above 20. That shouldn't even be possible. Y'all got to stop the puck from time to time. Our defense can't be that bad. The Minnesota Wild are Stanley Cup champions, taking down the Carolina Hurricanes. We need a bit more defensive support, but we also need more offensive support and goaltending support. We still need a lot more of everything here. Now, we're definitely not off to a terrible start. Like, getting an 88 overall in one of our first 2 spins, I can certainly work with that. We're going to be landing on the New York Rangers. Unfortunately, this is before our Tony Panarin's time, but this would be around the Chris Kreider time. So at the very worst, we're walking away with Chris Kreider. So as I just mentioned, the worst player that we could be walking away with here is going to be Chris Kreider. And really, that's not too bad. He would be a solid enough player. But Matt Zuccarello, I believe you are like an 88 overall. You're either an 87 or 88 overall in NHL 25, and you would actually be a great addition to the team. We would get a really good playmaker, and outside you two guys, I think the only other available player here is going to be Ryan McDonagh. And I don't really want to bring Ryan McDonagh to the team, so we're going to go with Matt Zuccarello. Barring his overall, I do believe he's like an 87, 88 overall, but I could be completely wrong and he might be an 86. Now, I feel like I was overestimating Zuccarello's overall. Like, I don't think he's an 87, 88 overall, but he might be an 86 here. Okay, I was severely overestimating it. I guess not. He is an 87 overall, and I believe that is the best overall. Like, I don't think Chris Kreider is higher than an 87 overall. We will double check with him. But yeah, Chris Kreider's not going to be an 87 overall. He's going to be sitting at an 85 here. Granted, he is a power forward, and bringing a power forward to the team honestly wouldn't be that bad, but I think we just have to go with the best overall player being Zuccarello. Now, what do you know about this elite lineup right here? Brendan Gallagher playing center minutes for me, Zuccarello at the right wing where he probably should be, and then Morgan Rielly playing left wing minutes for me. We finally have a full forward line. Granted, one of them's a defenseman, but we're going to make it work. Like, at the end of the day, Morgan Rielly's a left defenseman, left winger. It's the same difference. Now, maybe a left defenseman on our left wing isn't going to work here because the game's going to be freezing 68 games in, but that's just the way she goes. Also, we just lost our last game 31-2. Yeah, I kind of understand why the game crashed. How would you be able to process that? Like, I've seen some losses in my day. I don't think I've ever seen us allow 30 goals. That is absolutely absurd. Normally, I would get super gassed about the Edmonton Oilers because we would bring Connor McDavid to the team. That's not quite the case here in NHL 15, but I think we're still going to be walking away with a really good player. Alright, so a debate could be had here. Leon Draisaitl in 2015 started the season with the Edmonton Oilers, so technically Leon Draisaitl should be on this team right here. However, I only have access to the first roster on NHL 15 because the servers are down, and on that first roster, Leon Draisaitl isn't on the team. Instead, he's on the Prince Albert Raiders. So with Leon Draisaitl not being on the team here, I'm just going to make the executive decision to say he can't be selected because we have to keep it consistent with the 3 previous selections we made. So with that being said, we're selecting between 4 players: Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Jordan Eberle, Taylor Hall, and David Perron. If I'm being completely honest, I think we're going with Nugent-Hopkins. I believe he's the highest rated player of these 4, and he's also the only man still on the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, this man has been in the absolute trenches. Like, he was on this team when they were at their very worst, and now he's lost back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. I think you can make the argument Nugent-Hopkins deserves a Stanley Cup more than Connor McDavid. Now, you might be thinking I'm absolutely crazy if I'm saying that Nugent-Hopkins deserves a Stanley Cup more than Connor McDavid, but we have to understand Nugent-Hopkins is entering year 15 with the Edmonton Oilers. He has been on the Edmonton Oilers going on 15 years. Like, yeah, the Edmonton Oilers are good right now, but go back 10 years, Nugent-Hopkins was in the absolute trenches with this team. Nah, this man deserves a Stanley Cup. Now, we finally have 3 forwards on our first line, being Zuccarello, Nugent-Hopkins, and Brendan Gallagher. When it comes to the defense, Morgan Rielly's going to be stuck with a 0 overall, but at least we finally have some support on the back end. Now, the Desert Dogs were flying this season. We're scoring 46 goals, and that's really the only thing we have to talk about because obviously we're not going to be winning any games here. Nugent-Hopkins was definitely the right guy to go with. 13 goals and 27 assists for 40 points. Brendan Gallagher, 35 points with 20 goals. Zuccarello, 10 goals, 25 assists for 35 points. Morgan Rielly was actually playing some good defensive minutes, picking up 15 points for me, but we still have these 2 goaltenders, and as long as we still have these 2 goaltenders, we're not going to be seeing any success here. Then again, even if we bring in a really good goaltender next season, that's not going to change anything because the rest of the team is terrible. The Utah Hockey Club is taking down the Buffalo Sabres in the Stanley Cup final. Keep in mind, these are the 2025 rosters. What kind of a cup final is this? Like, I can confidently say I don't think I've ever seen those 2 teams match up in the Stanley Cup final in 2025 throughout all the videos I've recorded so far. The Dallas Stars are actually a really good team to select from because Tyler Seguin's going to be available, Jamie Benn's going to be available. I don't recall who else is available here, but those are 2 great players to start with. Now, when thinking back to the 2015 Dallas Stars, stars, I was thinking about Tavares Seguin and I was thinking about Jamie Benn. But one player I completely overlooked, Valeri Nichushkin, because yes, he was on the Dallas Stars before, but I'm still not 100% sure if that's the guy we're going to be going with, because I think he's an 86 overall in NHL 25, and I think Tavares Seguin might be a higher overall, because I think Seguin's an 87 overall. Granted, bringing in Nichushkin definitely wouldn't be a bad pickup, so I guess we'll check what these overalls are. Now, after taking a quick look at overalls, Nichushkin, you are going to be the guy we're going with. 86 overall, Nichushkin's going to be the addition, because for some reason, I thought Tavares Seguin was a higher overall than what he was. For some reason, I was thinking he was like an 87, 88 overall in NHL 25. I don't know why I was thinking that, but that's not the case here. He's an 86, Jamie Benn's an 85, so even though Tavares Seguin's the exact same overall as Nichushkin's a sniper, and I think we could use one of them on the team. Now, with Nichushkin added to the team, the lowest overall on our first line is going to be an 86. We have 86 Nichushkin, 86 Nugent-Hopkins, and then 87 Zuccarello. Brendan Gallagher is going to move down to the second line. We have a bit more forward depth here, but it's still not going to be enough. Now, with each new player added to the team, it's no surprise we're seeing a little bit more success, not in the wins department, of course, but 53 goals is definitely a step in the right direction, but we're still a long ways away from winning a Stanley Cup. Nichushkin, 41 points, 15 goals, 26 assists. Zuccarello, 12 goals, 29 assists for 41 points, and then Nugent-Hopkins, 12 goals, 25 assists for 37 points. I'm going to be completely honest, Nichushkin, I was expecting you to score way more goals this season. The fact that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins actually took 40 more shots than you is a little bit surprising. Like, you're the sniper here. I need you to shoot the puck. What are you doing here? When it comes to goaltending, that's still atrocious. Erik Kartman had a save percentage above 700. No, we're in the absolute trenches. We need a goaltender desperately. The Vancouver Canucks are going to be Stanley Cup champions, taking down the Florida Panthers. There's a couple goaltenders back in 2015 that are still playing today, and I have two in mind when it comes to our team. When are we going to be adding these goaltenders? I couldn't tell you. Like, there is 2 to 3 goaltenders that if we were to land on, they would be a huge upgrade to the team. The Colorado Avalanche will also be a huge upgrade to the team, because we're getting a young Nathan MacKinnon, meaning we get prime Nathan MacKinnon in NHL 25. Now, the Colorado Avalanche do have a lot of players we could select. Matt Duchene, Gabriel Landeskog, Ryan O'Reilly, but it's very clear who we're going with. We're going with Nathan MacKinnon. I'm not passing up on Nathan MacKinnon here. Yeah, there's some other great options, but I want Nathan MacKinnon, and we are going with Nathan MacKinnon. It really wasn't up for debate. Nathan MacKinnon, welcome to the team. I don't think I've said your name enough. Now, Nathan MacKinnon, you're actually likely going to be the best player we bring to the team. We can't bring Connor McDavid in. We can't bring in Leon Draisaitl. Austin Matthews isn't an option. If we land on the Pittsburgh Penguins, we get Sidney Crosby, but he's not a 96 overall. So we actually got the best player possible here in Nathan MacKinnon. I really can't complain with what we're doing so far. We're building a really good team. However, we could use some more defensemen, and I think that's going to be the most difficult thing. Now, with the addition of Nathan MacKinnon, the team's certainly shaping up here. Like MacKinnon, Nichushkin, Zuccarello on the top line, I can certainly live with that. And then Nugent-Hopkins and Brendan Gallagher on the second line, that's a pretty good start. We do need a lot of help defensively here. Like Morgan Riley's not going to be enough. We need another star player. Now, we're getting very close to a historic day. We're almost at 1 goal per game. 71 goals scored this season. We're 11 goals away from 1 goal per game. And of course, it's no surprise that Nathan MacKinnon's leading the way here. 35 goals, 24 assists, 59 points. Are we really surprised at this? Nathan MacKinnon is clearly that guy for us. When it comes to goaltending, though, we don't have that guy. We don't even have a guy when it comes to goaltending. We're in a really bad spot there. The Washington Capitals is going to take down the Calgary Flames in a 7-game series to win the Stanley Cup. As much as I want a goaltender here, we could also really use a defenseman. Or a Sidney Crosby. I'll always take Sidney Crosby. Or even Ovi. Give me a superstar. That's basically what I'm asking for here. Like, if you give me a superstar, I don't care who the superstar is, I'm not going to complain. The St. Louis Blues are a very interesting team here. Like, Alex Pietrangelo is one of the first players that comes to mind. Obviously, Vladimir Tarasenko was another player that comes to mind. But unfortunately, Vladimir Tarasenko has fallen off a little bit, and he is not the player he used to be. I think more than likely we're going to go with Alex Pietrangelo here, but let's go take a look at that 2015 Blues roster. Now look at this elite team right here. David Backes, Paul Stastny, Vladimir Tarasenko, Jaden Schwartz, Alexander Steen, TJ Oshie. If we want to, we could even go with Ryan Reeves, who is still in the league. Like in NHL 15, this man was 27 years old. He is still in the league in NHL 25. How is that possible? I have no clue, but Ryan Reeves is still here. When it comes to the defense, Jay Bouwmeester, Kevin Shattenkirk, Vladimir Tarasenko, the man we're going to go with. Jake Allen wouldn't be terrible here. At least he would be a goaltender. But you know what? I'd rather go with an elite defenseman like Alex Pietrangelo, and that's who we're going to go with here. He was an amazing defenseman in NHL 15, but in NHL 25, he's still an elite one. Now, I think Alex Pietrangelo is likely going to be one of our best defensemen moving forward. He actually might be the best defenseman on this team once we get to the end of the video. Unless we land on the Nashville Predators, then we can add Roman Josi to the team. But outside of Roman Josi, I don't know if we're going to find a higher overall than Alex Pietrangelo in NHL 15. Now, with Alex Pietrangelo brought to the team, having him on the first pairing alongside Morgan Riley should be good enough for at least 1 goal per game. If we don't score a goal per game here, something went very, very wrong. wrong. Now the Houston Desert Dogs are finally going to be a goal per game here. They're scoring 107 goals this season, which is going to equal 1.3 goals per game. But with the team being above a goal per game, it only makes sense that Nathan MacKinnon's above a point a game. I shouldn't really say above a point a game because he's exactly a point a game. 35 goals and 47 assists for 82 points. Nichushkin 64 points. Zuccarello 58. That's how much of a difference one defenseman is going to make here. And it's even going to help the goaltending numbers, but not really. The save percentages are still terrible. The goals against, I guess, are slightly better, but not really. We need a goaltender desperately here. Like, give me a goaltender from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Give me a goaltender from the Anaheim Ducks. If I can get a goaltender from one of those two teams, we're going to be in an elite spot. Like, if we land on the Anaheim Ducks, we're going to be getting Freddie Anderson. If we land on the Columbus Blue Jackets, we would have been walking away with Sergei Bobrovsky. Instead, we're landing on the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, Winnipeg's not bad. We could add Mark Scheifele to the team, and I wouldn't be against that. But man, we really could have got Sergei Bobrovsky if we just land on Columbus there. Now, Mark Scheifele is not the only player we could add here, because outside of Mark Scheifele, Evander Kane is also on the Winnipeg Jets here at an 87 overall, but we're not going to be going with him. Mark Scheifele is definitely the guy that we want to select here. He's an 83 overall in NHL 15, but he's certainly not an 83 overall in NHL 25. When it comes to the defense here, Trouba, I guess, is available. Like, we could take him from the Anaheim Ducks, but I'm not going to do that. Zach Bogosian would also be available. Unfortunately, I believe this is one season before Connor Hellebuyck joined the team. So yeah, we're not going to be bringing Hellebuyck to the team here, but we're still going to be walking away with a great player in Mark Scheifele. So from the 2015 Winnipeg Jets, we're going to be bringing Mark Scheifele to the team, a 91 overall playmaker, one of the best players we could have on this team. He's going to be the second highest, only behind Nathan MacKinnon. More than likely, he's going to end up playing some second line playmaking minutes, but if our top two centermen are Mark Scheifele and Nathan MacKinnon, I think we'll be okay. Now, I could have Mark Scheifele play out of position and play on the top line, but you know what? I like these lines right here. We have some amazing center depth with Nathan MacKinnon and Mark Scheifele, Nugent-Hopkins and Zuccarello on the left wing, Nichushkin and Brendan Gallagher on the right wing. This is a really good forward core. Ignore the bottom six though. If you ignore the bottom six, it's a good forward core. Alright, we're going to go over this season really quick because this was ridiculous. We lost every game, no surprise there. Nathan MacKinnon was over a point a game, no surprise there. Excuse me? The Buffalo Sabres are Stanley Cup champions, taking down the Seattle Kraken in 7 games. The Buffalo Sabres won in the year 2025. What are we talking about here? This team doesn't make the playoffs, let alone win Stanley Cups. But you're telling me they're going to beat the Seattle Kraken in the Stanley Cup final in the year 2025? We got to relax here. Now we know what we need here. We need a goaltender, and we need one desperately. The Ottawa Senators, unfortunately, aren't going to be giving us a goaltender. And I'm going to be honest, I actually don't know who the Ottawa Senators are going to be giving us. Like, the first name that comes to mind is Mika Zibanejad. And outside of Mika Zibanejad, I actually couldn't tell you who was on the 2015 Ottawa Senators. What am I yapping about? Mark Stone, Erik Karlsson. Ignore everything I just said. Yeah, we have a lot of options. Now, taking a look at the 2015 Ottawa Senators, it's a throwback. Kyle Turris, Clark MacArthur, Bobby Ryan. On the third line, we can find Mika Zibanejad, but we can't find Mark Stone anywhere. For some reason, he's on their AHL team, even though he was definitely in the NHL at this time. When it comes to the defense, we're going to find Erik Karlsson being the highest rated player here at an 89 overall, and he's going to be the guy we go with. We need some elite defensemen, and when it comes to finding elite defensemen in NHL 15 that are still in NHL 25, it's actually more difficult than you would think. So back in NHL 15, Erik Karlsson was the best player on the Ottawa Senators at an 89 overall. Now he's on the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he's an 88 overall. Over the past decade, he's dropped 1 overall. Bro's been an elite player for the past decade here. He might be 34 years old, and he might be past his prime, but he's still a serviceable enough defenseman for us. Now, Erik Karlsson, you're going to be a great addition to the second pairing here. I think in the future, more than likely, you're going to be playing alongside Morgan Rielly, because ideally, we're going to have Roman Josi on the top pairing. But until that moment, we have Morgan Rielly and Alex Pietrangelo together. Alright, I think at this point, we probably should have about 5 or 6 wins in a season, but the only reason we don't is we don't have a goaltender here. We can't keep the puck out of our net. Offensively, the team's not even looking terrible here. Like Nathan MacKinnon, 91 points, Mark Scheifele, 74, Zuccarello, 72, but the main problem, we don't have a goaltender. We can't keep the puck out of our net because we're allowing 13 to 14 goals per game, and until that changes, there's going to be no success for the Houston Desert Dogs. The Winnipeg Jets are winning the Stanley Cup, and why are they doing that? Because they have a really good goaltender. And why did the New York Rangers make it to the Stanley Cup final? Because they have a really good goaltender. Give me a goalie. Like at this point, I'm willing to take like an 83, 84 overall goaltender. I just need something here. We're landing on the Carolina Hurricanes. Unfortunately, they're not going to be giving me a goaltender. Or at least I don't think they are. Maybe they are, I have no clue. Now, the NHL 15 Carolina Hurricanes is very different from the NHL 25 Carolina Hurricanes. I think the only player that's still on the team is Jordan Staal, but unfortunately, he's not an 88 overall in NHL 25. Jeff Skinner's another player we can select here. Elias Lindholm wouldn't be a terrible option. Unfortunately, he's not the player he used to be, but he still wouldn't be a terrible selection for us. Justin Faulk is available, and I'm low-key thinking about going with Justin Faulk here because he'd be a decent enough depth defenseman for me. Like, I'm not expecting him to to be an absolute superstar, but he could definitely play his role on the third line. When it comes to goaltending, the two options are Cam Ward and Qdobin. We can't go with either of those guys. So with all that being said, I think Justin Faulk is the best option here. Like when it comes to future forwards available, there's going to be a lot of superstar forwards available, and I don't want Jordan Staal or Jeff Skinner taking up a roster spot when I could have Sidney Crosby instead. So through using that logic, we're going with Justin Faulk. Now Justin Faulk might have been a former Carolina Hurricane, but he's currently a member of the St. Louis Blues, sitting at an 85 overall. He's going to be a great addition to the defense. This season, you're likely going to be playing some second pairing minutes, but in the future, you'll be on the third pairing. Now through having two complete defensive pairings, we can actually run two complete lines now. The first line is going to be out there with the first defensive pairing. The second line is going to be out with the second defensive pairing. We will continue to not worry about the bottom six or third pairing defense or goaltending. I guess we still need a goaltender here. We need a goaltender desperately. We will never win a game, let alone get into overtime, until we add a goaltender. It's getting a little bit ridiculous here. Alright, call me crazy, but I think Justin Faulk actually made this team worse. We scored 150 goals, which I think is actually less than we did last season. And then when it comes to our leading scorer, Nathan MacKinnon only had 79 points, so we didn't even have a point a game score here. Zuccarello 60 points, Mark Scheifele 58. Yeah, we weren't nearly as good this season. For some reason, we took a massive step back after replacing a 0 overall player. It really doesn't make sense. Justin Faulk, there's no way you're actually making us worse here. The Tampa Bay Lightning are Stanley Cup champions. I just want a goaltender. All I'm asking for is a goalie. Please, 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 just give me a goaltender here so we can win at least one game. Now I don't really need to mention what we need here. We need a goaltender, so please, please, please give me a goaltender. The Boston Bruins. Unfortunately, we're not going to be getting a goaltender from the Boston Bruins, but we're still going to be walking away with an elite player. Now, although it's a clear selection for the Boston Bruins, like we're going to be going with Brad Marchand, they actually have more players than I expected. We could have gone with Riley Smith. He was an option, but when it comes to the defense, Torrey Krug and Dougie Hamilton are available here, and Dougie Hamilton would be a really good addition to the team. But you know what? I don't think we need any more defensemen here. We have to continue to build up the forward core. But you know what else we have to build up? The goaltending tandem, which we can't do here. Kucherov, unfortunately, you're not an active player in NHL 25, so I can't go with you. So with us not being able to bring a goaltender to the team yet again, we're going with Brad Marchand. But let's not act like that's a bad selection by any means. Now we're adding Brad Marchand to the team, but we're not selecting him from the Boston Bruins. Of course, he's on the Florida Panthers now, and that still doesn't seem right. I don't know what it is, but Brad Marchand not on a team named the Boston Bruins just doesn't seem right. But I better get used to it because he's going to be in Florida for a bit now that he signed that contract. Now we've seen another upgrade to the top six by bringing Brad Marchand to the team, but you know we haven't seen an upgrade in our goaltending tandem. I think I'm going to mention that every season moving forward. I need a goaltender desperately here. Until we win a goaltender, we're not going to win a game and we're not going to make it to overtime. Now we've reached an all-time low here. 200 goals scored this season. That's 35 less goals than the Philadelphia Flyers, who won 34 games. We won 0 games because we don't have a goaltender. Our offense is still terrible, don't get me wrong, but it's not significantly worse than the second worst team in the entire league right now. If we get a goaltender, we might immediately be looking at 10 wins here. Nathan MacKinnon, 57 goals, 59 assists, 116 points. These numbers are way better than last season. Brad Marchand's going to be above a point a game. He's picking up 94 points, but none of this means anything because these are our goaltenders, Erik Kartman and Ricky Lafleur, and they just can't hold it down for me. These guys just aren't good enough to help us win a Stanley Cup, let alone even winning a single game here. The Detroit Red Wings are Stanley Cup champions, but that's going to be us sooner than later because we're about to get a goalie. Or at least I'm praying we get a goaltender here. Like, we desperately need a goaltender. I need one big time. Okay, we can technically get a goalie here. It wouldn't be ideal, but we can technically get one. Now, the LA Kings actually have a couple players I wouldn't mind bringing to the team. Anze Kopitar would be a great addition. Tyler Toffoli wouldn't be that bad of a pickup. When it comes to the defensive core here, of course we can go with Drew Doughty. We technically could go with Alec Martinez, but I'm not going to do that because why would I select Alec Martinez over Drew Doughty in the year 2025? That just doesn't make any sense. But surprisingly, we're not going to take a forward from this team or a defenseman, but instead a goaltender. We're going to select Jonathan Quick just so we can get a goalie. Jonathan Quick certainly isn't the guy he used to be in NHL 25, but at least he's a goalie. And all I really want at this point is a goalie. So Jonathan Quick, I didn't expect to bring you to the team in this video, but you're going to be the guy we go with here. Now, who would have thought in 2025 I would be going out of my way to bring Jonathan Quick to the team, but here we are. We need a goaltender desperately. He's an 83 overall, which actually isn't that bad. An 83 overall goaltender could probably win us a Stanley Cup here. Jonathan Quick, you might be 38 years old and you might not be in your prime anymore, but I'm pretty sure we could still win with you as long as we have a great team in front of you. Now, we've prayed for times like this. We finally have a goaltender, 83 overall Jonathan Quick, lead us to 45 wins this season. Of course, I wouldn't set unrealistic expectations for Jonathan Quick. No, I would be very realistic with him. That's why I only asked for 45 wins and not 50. Now, after adding Jonathan Quick to the team, I didn't expect to say this, but I'm not sure if I should be happy with the performance of this team or disappointed. Because yes, we won 10 games this season. We're finally in the win column. However, we only scored 169 goals. That is 31 goals less than we scored last season. I don't know what happened to this team. The offense wasn't nearly as good with the addition of Jonathan Quick, and that doesn't make much sense to me. Like, how is Jonathan Quick hurting our offense? Nathan MacKinnon, 85 points. Brad Marchand, 72. Mark Scheifele, 57. Like, what happened to the great offense of this team? Last season, when we didn't have a goaltender, our offense was amazing. The second I add Jonathan Quick to the team, the offense completely falls apart. Obviously, those two things aren't correlated, but it's a very weird coincidence. The Colorado Avalanche are Stanley Cup champions. I am fully predicting that we get another goaltender here. It would only make sense for us to get back-to-back goaltenders and back-to-back spins after not getting a goaltender for about 11 spins in a row. So let's just go ahead and get goaltender number 2. I can see it all happening here. Never mind, we're not going to be walking away with goaltender number 2, but instead Roman Josi from the Nashville Predators. Now, there's only one forward that we could steal from the Nashville Predators, and that's going to be Craig Smith, but obviously we're not going with Craig Smith here. I made it very clear from the beginning, if we landed on the Nashville Predators, we're going with Roman Josi, and that's exactly what we're doing here. But Seth Jones is an option because he's on Nashville at this time. When it comes to goaltending, they have Pekka Rinne, Carter Hutton. Yeah, we can't go with either of these guys. Now, Roman Josi is one of the best players that we can actually bring to the team here, and he's going to be a great addition. I believe he's a 94 overall, never mind only a 93, but you know what? I'm perfectly fine with the 93 overall to be our top defenseman here. Now, our defensive core is almost complete. Roman Josi, Alex Pietrangelo, Erik Karlsson, Morgan Rielly, Justin Faulk on the third pairing, alongside Corey Trevor. Once we're able to bring in a great defensive partner for Justin Faulk, I think this defense is going to be unstoppable. So with Roman Josi's addition to the defense, the Houston Desert Dogs are going to see more success this season. We're picking up 16 wins. However, the goals for is still annoying me. Why are we not at 200 goals for here? 2 seasons ago, when we didn't have a goaltender or Roman Josi on the team, we were able to score 200 goals. Now we can't. Explain how that works, I have no clue. Nathan MacKinnon, you're back to 85 points. Brad Marchand, 72. Nugent-Hopkins, 61. Mark Scheifele, 56. This team is completely fallen off. I don't know what's wrong with them, but they should be significantly better than this. Jonathan Quick, 16 wins, including 2 shutouts. He was locked in this season, a 909 to 384. I'm actually having more confidence with Jonathan Quick here. Like, I actually think we might be able to win a Stanley Cup with him as long as we have a good supporting cast around him. The Florida Panthers are going to sweep the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup final, but then again, maybe I shouldn't be too confident. The Florida Panthers are still around and they're still dominating. But you know what? There is one way to counter the Florida Panthers. They have Sergei Bobrovsky as their starting goaltender. How about we run Sergei Bobrovsky as well? We run Sergei Bobrovsky against Sergei Bobrovsky. That'd be a great matchup. Unfortunately, we're not going to be getting that. We're going to be landing on the New York Islanders. And you know what? That's not too bad because at this time they have a franchise star. Now, outside John Tavares, we're not looking at a ton of great selections here. Brock Nelson wouldn't be a bad pickup, but you know what? He's not Johnny T. When it comes to the defense, yeah, this certainly isn't it. And then when it comes to goaltending, Yaroslav Halak, you're not the goaltender you used to be. So yeah, we're just going to keep this one really simple. Johnny T, welcome to the team. You might not be a 90 overall anymore, but you're still a really good player. Like, you're an 88 overall. You're going to end up playing top line minutes for me. I think more than likely you're going to replace Nichushkin on the top line, and then we're going to move Brad Marchand over to the right wing. And if we do that, I think we're going to have an incredible first line. Now, our top 6 is incredible here. Johnny T, Nathan MacKinnon, Brad Marchand, Nichushkin, Mark Scheifele, Matt Zuccarello. We can work with this right here. Nugent-Hopkins and Brendan Gallagher are going to be holding it down the third line for us. We still have 4-0 overalls when it comes to the forward core. We have 1-0 overall when it comes to the defensive core, and then we have 1-0 overall backup goaltender. So we're getting close to completing this team. We just need a couple more pieces. Now, I'm happy to say the Desert Dogs finally figured it out. Dead last in the NHL, but we had the same amount of wins as the Montreal Canadiens at 29. We also scored more goals than them and the St. Louis Blues. We were 1 goal behind the Seattle Kraken, but we scored more than the San Jose Sharks and the Los Angeles Kings and the Nashville Predators. Our offense wasn't terrible here. It wasn't good, but it wasn't terrible. Defensively, we're still atrocious here. That's not going to change. Nathan MacKinnon, 115 points. He was locked in. Brad Marchand, Johnny T, they were an amazing first line. All of them having a positive plus minus. That's what I've been looking for here. And then when it comes to Jonathan Quick's numbers, 28 wins, 3 shots, a 917 and a 327. But we actually won a game with Erik Kartman here. This man won 1 game for us. He's a 0 overall. This man can't do anything, but he still found a way to win 1 game with us. I never thought I would see the day. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be Stanley Cup champions, but who cares about that? The Desert Dogs are close to a Stanley Cup, or at least the postseason. Now we have to build off that momentum. Like 29 wins, tied for last in the entire league. That's a great sign. We're landing on the New Jersey Devils. The NHL 15 New Jersey Devils are very different from the NHL 25 New Jersey Devils, so I don't even know who we're going to be getting here. Now, the NHL 15 New Jersey Devils are certainly an interesting team. Like, from the forward core, we can go with Adam Henrique. And then when it comes to the defensive core, we can go with Adam Larsson, and that's it. So do I want Adam Larsson or do I want Adam Henrique? Those are our only two options. Now, I think we just have to keep things simple here. Adam Henrique, you're an 81 overall. We should just go with the highest overall player here, and that's not you. So we're going to go down to the Seattle Kraken, and we're going to go with Adam Larsson. Although Adam Larsson is going to be playing out of position here, he's going to be on the left side, not the right. He's the highest overall. I think that just keeps things really simple here. He's a defensive defenseman, which we could use on this team. Let's try not to overcomplicate things. Adam Larsson, welcome to the team. So we have our complete defense here. Roman Josi, Alex Pietrangelo, Erik Karlsson, Morgan Rielly, Adam Larsson, Justin Faulk. This is certainly a defense that we can win with. However, we do need to upgrade the forward core a little bit more. We still have a couple 0 overalls here, and we do need a backup goaltender or potentially even a new starting goaltender. Now, with the addition of Adam Larsson, it's still not going to be good enough for us to not be dead last in the entire league. 29 wins once again this season, 2.91 goals, so we're getting close to 3 goals per game. We just need a couple more forwards, but there is something else that would be a massive help for this team, another goaltender. Right now, we only have Jonathan Quick and a 0 overall. I either want another superstar goaltender or just another goaltender that can play their role here. Like, based on the way Jonathan Quick's been playing, I think we can win with him. I have full confidence in Jonathan Quick to be our Stanley Cup winning goaltender in 2025. However, we still need a bit more support around him. The Edmonton Oilers are going to be taking down the Toronto Maple Leafs in 6 games. I think it's about time we add another superstar. Now, where is that superstar going to be coming from? I'm not really too sure. It's definitely not coming from the Buffalo Sabres, but maybe it is. We can't sleep on the Buffalo Sabres here, because although they've been a terrible team between NHL 15 and NHL 25, they've had a lot of good players they've traded away. So we actually might be getting something pretty solid from Buffalo. So as I was just mentioning, the Buffalo Sabres have been a terrible team from NHL 15 to NHL 25. But during that time period, they've had a lot of good players that have switched teams. Unfortunately, we got the beginning of that timeline where they really don't have any good players. And I think Marcus Foligno is actually the best player we can go with. Like, Marcus Foligno, 23 years old, you're an 81 overall. I think you're actually the best option moving into NHL 25. Because we already have a complete defensive core, so we can't go with Tyler Myers. We can't go with Rasmus Ristolainen. And then when it comes to goaltending, they don't have any active goaltenders for NHL 25. So yeah, we're going with Marcus Foligno here. Now, what can I say? Am I really surprised that we're not going to be getting a good player from the Buffalo Sabres? Absolutely not. We have to head down to the Minnesota Wild to select Marcus Foligno. He's an 82 overall, but I think the worst thing about Marcus Foligno, he's a grinder. And as we all know, I'm not a big fan of those. So with the addition of Marcus Foligno, we have a top 9. We have 3 more 0 overall forwards and 1 0 overall goaltender here. I feel like we're really close to making the postseason here. I don't know if we'll be able to do it with a 0 overall goaltender as our backup, but I guess we'll find out really quick. Now, this is how you know we're getting close to a Stanley Cup. We're not dead last in the entire league. I have seen teams go from being 29th in the entire league to 3rd the following season with 1 more player, and that's what we might see here. If we can add a superstar goaltender such as Sergei Bobrovsky to the team, we might be that team making a jump from 29 to 3rd. Nathan MacKinnon was great this season. Brad Marchand, Mark Scheifele, Johnny T, they all did their thing here. These are the core guys we're building our team around. And then when it comes to goaltending, Jonathan Quick, you actually won more games than you lost. I mean, if you don't count OT losses, 32 wins this season, a 909 to 315. You're holding up your end of the bargain. Don't get me wrong here, but we need a true superstar. We do, but we don't. I mean, Jonathan Quick put up amazing numbers. Maybe we can win with him, but Sergei Bobrovsky, I feel, would just make this significantly easier. The New York Rangers are Stanley Cup champions. I think what we need with our next spin is either Sergei Bobrovsky, Freddie Anderson, Sidney Crosby, or Alexander Ovechkin. If you can give me one of those 4 players, I think we're looking at a playoff berth next season. Now, there's 4 key players I'm looking at here. Are we going to get one of those 4 key players? Yes, we are. Alexander Ovechkin, welcome to the team. Do I really need to look at the NHL 15 roster? I don't have to, but we still will. Now, it's pretty clear who we're going with. Alexander Ovechkin. We're not really contemplating anyone else here, but there's still some great players. Nick Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Joel Ward. What do you know about St. Louis Blues legend Troy Brouwer? He was really that man. John Karlsson, Mike Green, Matt Niskanen, Carl Alsner, Brooks Orpik. Like, this team was actually pretty solid. Unfortunately, they just didn't see a lot of success. Ovi would eventually win 1 Stanley Cup with this team, but in reality, they probably should have won a couple. Now, Alexander Ovechkin, of course, you have to play first line minutes here. The first line is probably going to be Alexander Ovechkin, Nathan MacKinnon, and Brad Marchand. That's going to be a really good first line. And then Johnny T, you're going to move down to the second line. So Ovi, are you going to be the missing piece for us? Are you going to help this team finally make the postseason season after years of disappointment? I'm not too sure. We still have 0 overalls here. We have a 0 overall backup goaltender. Jonathan Quick basically has to play every game this season, and I'm not too sure if he can do that at 38 years old. Like, we're expecting this man right here, who's 38 years old, to play 75 games this season. That doesn't seem like a recipe for success. Now, with Alexander Ovechkin, I had high expectations. We did not live up to those expectations. 29th in the entire league again. We're going to pretend this season didn't happen. Ovi led the way with 83 points, so we probably only had 1 point a game player here, and that shouldn't even be possible with the amount of amazing talent we have. The Edmonton Oilers are going to get back against the Florida Panthers, taking them down to a 7-game series. Edmonton's finally beaten Florida. I never thought I'd see the day. Now, if we learned anything this season, 38-year-old Jonathan Quick can't be the guy for us, but he doesn't have to be anymore. We got Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, there's a couple players from the NHL 15 Columbus Blue Jackets we could go with. Nick Foligno, Boone Jenner, Cam Atkinson, but we're not going with any of those guys. We're not going to go with anyone from the defense. We're not selecting Jack Johnson. We're not going with David Savard. Instead, we're going strictly with our goaltender because that is Sergei Bobrovsky. Sergei Bobrovsky's finally going to be joining our team in NHL 25. We finally have our goaltender that can lead us to a Stanley Cup. Now, we don't have to rely on only Jonathan Quick anymore. We have a new starting goaltender here. It's going to be 88 overall Sergei Bobrovsky. He's up there in age alongside Jonathan Quick. Like, Bobrovsky's 36 right now, but you know what? 36 isn't 38. So yeah, I guess that's the logic we're going to use here. Now, we're not going to act like Sergei Bobrovsky is an incredibly young goaltender or anything. However, he has won back-to-back Stanley Cups, and that's good enough for me. He's going to be our starter moving forward, and he's going to be the guy that leads us to a Stanley Cup. All right, I'm sorry, but this is getting a little bit ridiculous here. We only have 2 0 overall players on our 4th line. You're telling me we still can't even make the wild card? This is getting ridiculous. I guarantee you what's going to happen here is we're going to land on the Pittsburgh Penguins, bring Sidney Crosby to the team, and then somehow, some way, this team is going to be first in the entire league with like 55 wins. That's what's going to happen here. I can see it all happening. Yeah, we're not even worried about this season. Sergei Bobrovsky at 909 to 305. I don't care about these numbers whatsoever. I don't care that the Seattle Kraken won the Stanley Cup. Watch us get Sidney Crosby and then everything changes. So let's go ahead, spin this wheel right here and add Sidney Crosby to the team. Now you give me the Anaheim Ducks. For the longest time, I could have used the Anaheim Ducks and Freddie Anderson, but you didn't give me the Ducks. Now you give me the Ducks after we got Sergei Bobrovsky. It's not fair and it's not right. Now, the Anaheim Ducks actually have a couple players we could go with. We could go with Corey Perry, but we're not going to do that. He is an option though, so I thought I'd mention him. Kyle Palmieri is an option. Patty Maroon, you're technically an option here. Ricard Rakell is also an option. When it comes to the defense, we have a couple more selections we could go with. We could go with Cam Fowler. We could go with Hampus Lindholm. And then when it comes to goaltending, we have a couple more options here. John Gibson and Freddie Anderson. All of these players on the Anaheim Ducks back in NHL 15 are still actively playing in the NHL. I mean, Patrick Maroon technically retired at the end of last season, but he's still in NHL 25, so that's all that matters. But out of all these different options we have, I think we're going to go with Ricard Rakell. He might be the lowest overall in NHL 15, but he's going to be a great addition to our team in NHL 25. Now, Ricard Rakell, are you going to be the savior for our team? You're an 85 overall, going to play some bottom 6 minutes. More than likely, you're going to end up playing third line right wing minutes for me. But can you lead this team right here to a playoff berth? I don't see why not, because there's no reason this team can't make the playoffs. There's so many elite players here. It's actually a little bit ridiculous that we haven't seen any postseason action. So we're 1 player away from completing this team. Like, we only have Mordecai left on the 4th line. That's a 0 overall. But for some reason, this team still can't find a way to make it into the postseason. I don't know why that is. We have all the right pieces here. We have a ton of amazing players. We should at least be a wildcard team. There's no reason we can't be. And just like that, with the addition of Ricard Rakell, we're 3rd in the entire league, a 49, 26, and 7 record. It can happen that fast. Sometimes you just need one more player, and that player was Ricard Rakell. Nathan MacKinnon, 104 points. Alexander Ovechkin, 92. Brad Marchand, 84. Mark Scheifele, Roman Josi, and Zuccarello were doing their things here. But yeah, sometimes it just takes one more player, and one more player can completely change your offense, but also your goaltending, because Sergei Bobrovsky, 42 wins, 4 shouts, a 913 to 274 is significantly better from last season. But you know what? We can't be too confident here. We're taking on the Winnipeg Jets in the first round. Winnipeg's still an amazing team, so we're not guaranteed to get out of the first round here, even though we were 3rd in the entire league. Like, keep in mind, we were 3rd in the entire league, but we were also 3rd in our division. Like, we were the 3rd best team in our division, but 3rd best in the entire league. The Central Division's running the NHL right now. We had a 3-0 series lead, but now that's a 3-2 series lead. We better not lose 3 in a row here. Are we really going to blow a 3-0 series lead? That would be crazy work. Like, this team was looking amazing. We dominated the first 3 games, and here we are losing. We are losing this game right here, 6-4. That is crazy work. Yeah, so I haven't really processed what happened here. Like, we were up 3-0 in the series. We won the first 3 games, and we still lost in the first round. Sergei Bobrovsky, you had a 3-0 record, and you're finishing with a 3-4 record. How on earth does that even happen? Somehow a team from the Central Division won the Stanley Cup, but it wasn't the Houston Desert Dogs, it wasn't the Winnipeg Jets, and it wasn't the Minnesota Wild. It was the Colorado Avalanche, who played another team in the Central Division in the Dallas Stars in the conference finals. No, the Central Division runs the league right now. Now, whether or not the Central Division runs the NHL doesn't really matter until we're the team running in the NHL. The Houston Desert Dogs have to be the team running the Central Division and the NHL. The Tampa Bay Lightning are going to give us our final forward before we have a complete team here, and this is a great team to select from. Now, the Tampa Bay Lightning is actually going to be a bit better than expected, because originally I was thinking we were going to go with Steven Stamkos, but that's not quite the case here. Palat's another option, so is Alex Killorn, but we're not too focused on those guys because we have Nikita Kucherov coming off his rookie season. He's currently sitting at an 81 overall, but when he joins our team in NHL 25, he's going to be a 96 overall. There's some other great players here as well, like, don't get me wrong, Victor Hedman's an option here, Rakell Gudas is an option, and then when it comes to goaltending, we don't have Vasilevsky quite yet. It's Ben Bishop and Nabokov, but we don't need a goaltender. We got Sergei Bobrovsky, he's our guy. We have Jonathan Quick as the backup, and now with the addition of Nikita Kucherov, I think we're going to be unstoppable. That's in before we blow another 3-0 series lead in the first round, of course. So we get to bring one more player to the team, and then we're complete. Nikita Kucherov, 96 overall. I need you to save this franchise. I need you to lead us to the second round, because if we make it to the second round, that's actually more success than we've seen in the past. Now here we go. It's finally our time to win a Stanley Cup. Nikita Kucherov, Nathan MacKinnon, Alexander Ovechkin, Brad Marchand, Mark Scheifele, Zuccarello. That's the top six here. We have an incredible bottom six as well, incredible defensemen here. Roman Josi, Alex Pietrangelo, Erik Karlsson, Morgan Riley, Adam Larsson, Justin Faulk. I need y'all to play your roles here, and then Sergei Bobrovsky, keep the puck out of the net. If we do all of those things this season, we're going to be Stanley Cup champs. So here we go, the Houston Desert Dogs, first in the entire league, a 57-20-5 record, 3.8 goals per game, that's the best in the NHL. And then when it comes to our defense, 2.37, that's also the best in the NHL. We had the best record, we had the best offense, we had the best defense, so you all know what that means. We're losing in the first round. It is almost guaranteed we lose in the first round here. This entire team is about to come collapsing down. I can see it all happening. Of course, we're taking on a Central Division team in the Dallas Stars. We shouldn't be surprised at this. Out of the 8 teams that made the playoffs from the Western Conference, 5 of them are coming from the Central Division. That's how good this division is. We had a 3-0 series lead, and then we lost game number 4. No way we're doing this again. We are not blowing multiple 3-0 series leads, especially in back-to-back postseasons. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to get past the Dallas Stars, and we're moving on to take on the Minnesota Wild, another team from the Central Division. We might be dropping game number 1, but we're winning back-to-back after that. But unfortunately, we're going to drop game number 4. So game 5 is going to be a really important game. We can't afford to lose that one, and we're not going to be losing it. We're going to close this out in game number 6 and move on to the conference finals, or that's what we would do if we wanted to keep things simple. We're off to game 7. We got game 7 coming up between the Minnesota Wild and the Houston Desert Dogs. The Desert Dogs are looking to be flying in this game. It's going to be a scoreless first period. Moving into the second, are we finding the back of the net? Yes, we are. It's Nikita Kucherov and Nathan MacKinnon. We should be able to hold on to this one in the third period, and that's what's going to be happening. Zuccarello and Ryan Hartman are exchanging goals, but we're going to be coming out on top 3-1. Now, what if I told you moving into the conference finals, it's time for us to get our get back. It's time to get back against the Winnipeg Jets. We're going to defeat this team. We're going to sweep them. We are not doing this again. We can't blow multiple 3-0 series leads to the Winnipeg Jets. If we blow multiple 3-0 series leads here, then who knows what I was going to say, because we're not doing that. We're in the Stanley Cup final to take on the Carolina Hurricanes. In reality, what I was going to say is I would just end this video immediately. Like, if we blew multiple 3-0 series leads to the Winnipeg Jets, I was just going to end this video. But you know what? We might be ending it pretty quick here, because the Houston Desert Dogs are going to be taking down the Carolina Hurricanes in 5 games. We're Stanley Cup champions just like that. All we needed was Nikita Kucherov to get rid of that final 0 overall player, and now we're Stanley Cup champs. The Houston Desert Dogs started off as a team with 0 NHL players and only 0 overalls, but look at us now. Nathan MacKinnon, Nikita Kucherov, Brad Marchand, Mark Scheifele, Alexander Ovechkin, Zuccarello, Roman Josi. We got all of these players from NHL 15, and then Sergei Bobrovsky, of course, you were the man for us. 16 wins, 2 shots, a 908 and a 272. NHL 15 certainly gave us some interesting players. We got some absolute superstars in Nathan MacKinnon, Nikita Kucherov, and Brad Marchand, but there is one consistent thing between NHL 15 and NHL 25. The Buffalo Sabres will always disappoint me. Marcus Foligno, you recorded the least amount of points on this team. You can't make that up.